Hey guys and gals, it's Tripl-L, and now let's talk Little Witch Academia, episode 24. We are one episode away from the finale, and in this episode we just get almost a total conclusion to the dramatic storyline that was going on between Akko and Ursula, and we get kind of a start of a conclusion for the resolution between Croix and Ursula. So, ultimately, we're wrapping up. That's what this episode of Little Witch Academia is doing. We've seen the villain's downfall, and now it's just kind of dealing with things before the nuke falls. Jesus Christ. I was watching the episode and I do not remember when exactly that nuke got into play, but seeing it at the end was really one of the most, is it even despair-inducing? I don't know. I just think it's something. It's something. I'm pretty sure the nuke pops out once the caution sign starts popping up on Croix's phone. And then that's why everyone's looking up. It's because they can hear a nuke launching into space. So, I'm really interested what exactly was Croix's general idea when she built a nuke. But guys, just the nuke aside, I understand what's going on. We need a threat. We need to make the climax a climax. We need to see something cool. So the nuke accomplishes a purpose, and that purpose is making everyone terrified. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna give props to Trigger in those last few moments. What they were doing with Akko, with fading in and out on her face, or not fading, just cutting to black and then just kind of chopping up the sequence, it does make things a little bit more despair-inducing. So props Trigger for that. But guys, now let's just talk about the episode bit by bit. If you were to sit down and really just describe this episode, ultimately it's an Ursula episode. This is an episode for Ursula, or Charity, whatever you want to refer to her as. I'm still going to refer to her as Ursula for the purposes of this video. But it's an Ursula episode. If you just look at general screen time, it's an Ursula episode. Akko and the girls aren't really that important. Akko's importance only really comes in towards those last climactic moments and for the resolution with Ursula. But even then, I think Ursula has one line that is able to just steal the show from Akko. Well, stealing the show from Akko is kind of mean to say that, because Akko actually in that particular sequence was just a pleasure to see her talking. It was really nice just to see her talking, and it was really nice just to see Akko come at Ursula from this place of unconditional love. And it's actually a very heartwarming moment. So truthfully, Ursula didn't steal the moment from Akko, but what Ursula ended up saying was enough to again remind you, this is still pretty focused on Ursula. And the line I'm specifically thinking of is the one where she said that her dream came true, Ursula's dream came true. And so that's just, it throws back, right? Because both characters are getting something out of this relationship that they have. Akko gets to meet Chariot, and Akko gets to finally talk face to face and tell Chariot everything she ever wanted to tell her, and just tell her, hey, you made a difference in my life. And Ursula gets some kind of satisfaction, some kind of just appreciation. So, both characters, it was a very earnest exchange, but it ultimately is the episode itself. The story's about Akko, but the episode really painted it for an Ursula episode. And to continue singing the graces of Ursula, guys, man, thinking about it, Ursula is probably the most competent fighter in Little Witch Academia. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, in this episode, she went full-on Jedi, and then she went full-on ninja when she made the Shadow Clones. At this point, Ursula's really powerful. That this isn't simple just a girl casting magic. This is a girl casting magic and applying her body to whatever she's doing. And actually, props for all the witches in this episode. They all took a beating. When Finneran fell down from the height that she was at and landed on her bum, I really thought she almost shattered her back. But you know what? The witches apparently are all built like just freight trains, and they can take hits. And that's something that we ultimately learn in this episode. They can all take hits. The old lady, Finneran, Chariot, dear God, Chariot, and Croix, they can all take a good amount of hits. Of course, that's just anime doing its thing. You know, you have to make things look really destructive. You have to ignore the common sense that comes with, okay, how much pressure can a human body take before something breaks? So, you know, that's just anime being anime and just being bombastic. But in context, it's like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. Again, coming back to Ursula though, there is a degree of physicality beyond the magic, because at one point in the initial sequence, we have Ursula like jumping from a bridge and jumping onto a falling tile so that she can jump up to Croix, who is flying. It doesn't matter that Ursula can't fly. No, she can just jump up there. And so that's just incredible in all honesty. And then we have another sequence when Croix is about to be taken down by the giant dragon. Also, very cool looking dragon, but it does ask some, raises some questions, but very cool dragon. And Ursula just jumps from where she is and lands on this dragon with so much force that she's able to shut its mouth. Like, the amount of impact that scene was drawn with as Ursula's coming down it's just like, Jesus, she is a freight train. She's packing a lot of force behind that. And so the ultimate conclusion you take away from this is just Ursula's OP. She's just a very strong person. And so it just makes her ridiculously more impressive when it comes to the physicality of what she's capable of. It doesn't matter that she's pretty much handicapped compared to a lot of other witches. No, she could probably beat every single witch one-on-one in this world. Most likely. It's not even a doubt in my mind. As far as I'm concerned, since the majority of witches are really old, and since the contemporaries are kind of just like pricks, I imagine Ursula could take all of them. Wow. Anyway, yeah, Ursula doing her thing. Now, this is a heavy episode, or just like a really condensed episode. So the other character we have to talk about in this is Croix. But before we get into that, I just want to say before I forget now, because I mentioned her, when Finneran came in there and was just helping, I was really happy, because going into this episode, I was really wondering, where's Finneran? We haven't seen that aspect of Little Witch Academia in like probably since episode 16, like right around when Amanda's episode happened. We haven't really seen the other teachers pop up, and so my annoyance levels have just not been high enough for this series because we haven't been seeing their school system in play. And so, this episode is just kind of reminding me, Trigger is making sacrifices when it comes to the production of this series. And once we moved into the plot, once we moved into the overarching plot of Little Witch Academia, things were left on the side. Things like Finneran, things like Susie and Lot. And yes, those two characters are left behind. When was the last time that they had a legitimate long conversation with Akko? Those characters that were staples for the series just kind of get moved away. And I'm specifically referring to Lot and Susie. My names got mixed up there. I'm specifically referring to them because it's a pretty stark contrast when you compare the early episodes to these episodes. Again, because the plot had to happen in like the remaining episodes that Trigger allotted for the series, it just ends up being a little bit more unbalanced. And so when we have Finneran back, it's nice. It's nice. It's at least they're picking up on something that they sort of set up, and they answered it by having Finneran show up there and just go along with the fact that she was naturally suspicious of Croix, so her being there makes sense. And so I was happy to see them there. It doesn't matter that they were useless, but it was important that they were there. At least in terms of, I think in terms of the narrative. So now going into Croix. So Croix, she gets a good amount of attention in the episode because this is the episode that starts reconciling Croix and Ursula. And really, I do feel bad for Croix because when she was having her deal with the world reconstruction magic, I thought that was just the most brutal troll that anyone could ever go through. When it's just doing the party tricks, I'm just thinking, no wonder it picked Chariot. Like, Jesus, it felt really bad. It felt really embarrassing to just see that happening. And I really wish that it kept it straight. There's just full on party theatrics. But when Akko used it, it obviously did something a little bit more impressive. But still, that was pretty brutal. And so, before that, we just have Croix. She's high on herself. She's just doing her thing. Everything's working fine. She's made a very menacing creature thing. And again, really impressive that Croix is creating creatures. But, she made her thing and she gave it some really odd design features, such as an eyeball. That was very odd. Like, how does one sit down and say, okay, you know what? I think I need this light to also function as an eyeball. And what is the value of having an eyeball in your robot? Like, what does that do for you? And instead of a sensor, like, why do you have to make it like one of those lizard eyeballs? I don't get it. But, Croix has her, like, really weird kind of design methodologies. We've seen it. She has a nuke. This girl just kind of makes stuff. So that makes sense. But if you think about it. But yeah, Croix. So Croix is having her tirade. She has some pretty nice faces. I like how they're drawn. They're simple, but they just make it look kind of like offsetting, and I really enjoy that. And then we get into that sequence with the Grand Triskelion where she just gets trolled hard. And then the sequence that follows is where that Trigger doesn't really want Croix to be a villain. They don't really need her to be a villain. They need her to be an antagonist. They don't need her to be a villain. Because she breaks down with Woodward and you get the sense, okay, this girl, she has some kind of complex. She feels like she's inferior. There's a lot of things going on with her. What ultimately set her off into like this really kind of compromised plan was just she felt like she wasn't being recognized for her efforts. And you could probably sum it up there. Other people are probably better with words and they'll sum it up in different ways. But ultimately, Croix is doing this for attention. And so that's nothing bad. Villains are always allowed to have very, very, very petty motivations. For Croix, it's important because it like cements that the creators don't really need Croix to be the villain. Because everything that really happens after that sequence is just hubris falling down, because that sequence with Woodward where she throws away that stick and hits it into Woodward, it humanizes her. It shows she's really distraught about this. Like, she's more distraught about this than anyone could have ever have thought, or anyone within that world could have ever have thought. She's like really bothered about this. And also when she threw the stick at Woodward, I was thinking like, great, the one person that has answers and you just told her to go away. Great, Croix, way to go. No wonder no one loves you. Anyway, not the point. That sequence humanizes her. You see her as a human. You see her as this lady who is not the most competent teacher we've seen in like the history of the show. We just see a lady who feels like she was shafted by the people who she thought were there to help her. So, that starts humanizing her, and then you see her get beat down. She just gets beat up. Her machines are just going crazy. The justification for that, I don't know, man. It surged and it just made a giant dragon. Justifications don't matter. But we see her machines going crazy. Everything's falling apart. Everything that happens after that point where her machines go crazy, you could say like she's responsible for building them and for them letting them have a feature where they can turn into a dragon. But at the same time, she wasn't actually trying to use it. And so, you start like playing that hand of the events that unfold after that are just like, well, it's just technology glitching. But ultimately what that's just trying to do is just justify that dragon that was attacking the girls, it wasn't all Croix's fault. She wasn't telling that dragon to attack them. And so she is put on that path to be just like slightly more redeemable. Because then she has the interactions with Chariot, and then she's talking, and then she just says, Chariot, leave me alone, don't get involved. Those two characters start doing their thing. But ultimately, that sequence is just there to just say that at the end of the day, Croix isn't going to be a villain here. The reconciliation is going to happen, and we should all be pretty happy. Am I surprised that this is what we got? Not really. No, not really. Little Witch Academia is a lighthearted show. Them going this route with Croix is fine. Okay, so this video is gonna end up being a little bit longer, just because it has so much information in it. I think the next bit to talk about very quickly is Andrew and his father. Their sequence is just there to explain what's going on in the human world just to explain that people are just, something's going on. There's a coup d'etat going on over a soccer match, and it's being aggravated by Croix, I am assuming. But it's that whole sequence is just to show that there's shit going on in the real world, and Andrew's father and his friend aren't the nicest people. They are just thinking about how to take advantage of this. So it's painting politicians as being less honest than other people. That's not surprising. What's actually really surprising is that Andrew's father is telling him to go gather information. Because, look, man, practically, that's like a man saying, hey, go gather that information. I'll make my decision based on it. But it's like, I know you can't gather that information as effectively as you should be able to. So I know I don't really have to worry about making a choice that I don't want to make. So, you know, it's whatever. Like that sequence is just to illustrate some points that Andrew's a nice guy and his father is considerably not a nice guy, and that the guy next to him is a dick. Whatever, we already know that. So again, that sequence is important just to fill us in on what's going on. But then after that, we have the Akko scene, and again, I spoke about that. And let's see, what else do we have of importance? We see the girls hanging around, but they ultimately don't really do much except Diana, who helps Akko make the first shot when they attack the dragon. So as what is potentially one of the final fights in the series, is this a good final fight? Well, any part with chariot fighting is like just pretty freaking impressive, and you can appreciate that. But in terms of giving all the characters something to do, is it a good one? No, because the characters didn't do anything. Akko's group didn't really do anything besides Akko and possibly Diana, depending on how you want to argue it. But will the next episode give us something like that? Maybe. Like, Trigger's usually good about this. But again, the production of Little Witch Academia is very sketchy in some parts when it comes to balancing out how many characters they have to show, and balancing out storylines, and balancing out what episodes get played where. Because of those aspects, and because, again, the nature of producing anime is it's a stress-inducing process. Like, these things aren't going to be perfect. The fact that Trigger was able to go and foreshadow all their events and not have anything change is just ridiculous. The fact that they were able to do that, applause. That's impressive as all heck. But now just the reality of managing screen time for characters and making sure everyone does something is not something we should expect Trigger to be able to pull off. And as far as I'm concerned, the fact that Jasminka did not get an episode while almost all the other characters did is proof of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the nature of the business. But it does paint a picture for the finale. What could actually happen? Will this be a worthwhile fight? If you're a hardcore fan of Little Witch Academia, seeing the finale naturally is going to be worthwhile for you. But if you were to again compare and just kind of see were any characters shafted in this whole process, you shouldn't be surprised if that ends up happening next week. But again, we're approaching the end. There's not much we can do except just kind of buckle in for the ride. Now, me personally, my hopes, I really, 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 really hope that we get to see a giant robot fight. Truthfully, we already had a giant robot fight in a show that's supposed to be about little girls going to witch school. Truthfully, we never deserved a robot fight in the first place. But now that I know that it's possible, I'm going to keep hoping for it. That's what I would like to see. It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. But will we get it? No. But man, if we get a giant robot fight where all the girls are sitting inside the robot and just doing stuff, oh man, that would be so cool. Oh man, that would be great. Oh, it would be epic. But, next week, the girls are fighting a nuke that for all we know can turn into a dragon as well, because Croix made it. So you should assume that everything she has can turn into a dragon of some kind. It'll be interesting to see where we end off. I think we're going to get a happy ending. Luna Nova is going to be successful. Akko's going to do her thing. And that's all we can really ask for at this point. So yeah, guys, I'm going to end it there. 20 minutes. But it was a big, heavy episode. There was a lot to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you thought down below. And thank you for watching all the way through if you got to this part of the video. I'm really impressed. But thanks for watching, and till next time, I hope you have a great day. And next time will be probably the last time we will talk about Little Witch Academia. I also kind of want to see what the Grand Triskelion actually does, because it was really cool when it like made Arcturus the forest a lot prettier. So I want to see if there's more to that. That'd be pretty neat. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Till next time, I hope you have a great day.